Hello, everybody. Sorry, it looks like my digital quality here could be better. It's kind of granulated. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe I'll switch computers. I thought it'd be good to do an episode on call in. If someone wanted to call in that was non Catholic, of course, if you're Catholic, you can call in as well. Here's the phone number. I use a Google Voice, so this is not my personal number, so you don't have to think you're calling my personal number. This is a Google Voice number. So if any of you have questions and would like to ask me something about the Catholic Church, Holy Mother Church, please call in. If nobody comes in, that's totally fine. I'll just hang out here for 10, 15 minutes. See if my other computer will look a little less granular. But if nobody calls in, then we just won't upload this at all. So please consider calling in. Oh, my other computer is even worse. Man. Yeah, I think my other computer is going to be even worse. There's an old saying, Fulton Sheen, the great. You think about Fulton Sheen during his time in the peak in the 1950s. It's amazing to think that we had a Catholic priest on network television. Back when we only had 2 to 3 channels, who had a weekly television show talking about Catholicism, talking about Christianity in general. It's just amazing. I mean, to think that we were in that world. I couldn't even fathom one of the major networks allowing any Christian pastor, priest, whatever it is, to have an hour slot. I mean, I suppose they would if they felt like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, even if the ratings were good and they were making money off the ad revenue, I honestly don't even know if they would even do that. Because now we live in such a woke time that they'd be worried about offending somebody, I think. But Fulton Sheen was a great evangelist. I guess he was the proto tele-evangelist of his time. And he has that great saying. There's only, this is a kind of a corruption on the phrase, but there's only the 4 or 5 people who hate the Catholic Church, but there's thousands who hate what they think the Catholic Church teaches. And I think that's pretty. I think that's a pretty common sentiment that I see quite a bit, just from doing coffee shop evangelism, street evangelism, and just having this channel. Is that I would say a lot of the comments that I do get from Protestants are just not, it's untruths or obfuscations about the Catholic faith. Just things that just are not true. And as I've always said in the past, just show me in the catechism. You know, the church teaches this, that we believe that that is actually the flesh of Jesus Christ in the Eucharist. No, we don't. We believe it's his substance. That's why we call it transubstantiation. We don't eat his flesh. Oh, you worship Mary as a goddess. You worship the saints. Show me in the catechism. Show me any Catholic material that has the imprimatur that says that we do those things. And you won't find those things. So a lot of it is just obfuscations, distortions, misrepresentations. And many times I don't blame Protestants, because this is kind of the milieu or environment that they grew up in, is either they were taught this by their family or by friends or by the pastor of their church or churches, as they church jump quite a bit. It's like they almost don't know any better. And if you think that either you're in the true church, you're part of the elect, the guaranteed elect, or you just think that, well, there doesn't need to be an actual visible church, it's just all Christians are going to heaven. It's just about having me and my relationship with the Bible. I don't think you would ever do like an actual investigation into the veracities of the claims of the obfuscations and misconceptions and half truths and half lies about the Catholic faith. I think that you really have to go in a pursuit of knowledge and a pursuit of truth to find the fullness of truth, to do a dive into Catholicism. And then when these Protestants actually do decide to pursue the truth, then there's the great line from Cardinal Newman that those who know history cease to be Protestant. So I think if you have earnest Protestants who are actually interested in finding out what was the early church like, then many of them do that dive into the apostolic fathers and the patristic fathers, and then they're like, no, I don't. Once they start reading Justin Martyr, and once they start reading Ignatius of Antioch, and once they start reading Polycarp and Clement of Rome, and all these apostles of the apostles, they would maybe read the Didache. They're like, oh, when was this written again? This is contemporaneous to the New Testament, or maybe a decade or two after the New Testament. Oh, in these early writings of the disciples of the apostles, oh God, they do sound very Catholic. And then once they open that door, it's hard for many of them to unopen it, right? Because we always believe that you should follow your conscience. I tell people when I post in the comments, it's like, the other church is this. Just follow your conscience. Follow your conscience. But when you open this door, many times you can't unopen it. Like, for example, like the idea that the Catholic Church was created by Constantine, or the idea that it wasn't the Orthodox that left Catholicism, was the Catholicism that left Orthodoxy. It's strange, but I just think like the Catholic Church wasn't created till Constantine. Well, you have Ignatius of Antioch, who was an apostle of John the Evangelist, who was first and recorded in record to have used the term Catholic, and he wrote that in one of his writings. And this is like 90 AD. He is contemporaneous with John the Evangelist. He's a disciple of John the Evangelist. And he wrote, and he's the first to use the phrase, the Catholic Church. Catholic meaning, Greek corruption of the word, meaning universal, meaning anyone can join. Free, slave, Gentile, Jew, Persian, Greek, Roman, wherever you're from. So you can't take the Catholic Church as created in 300 AD when we first see the term Catholicism used by a disciple of one of the apostles. But again, I don't get mad or upset at Protestants for believing that lie, because this is all they know, and they've never been questioned or challenged to read the Church Fathers, because most of them don't even know about the Church Fathers. A lot of the Bible-believing Protestants, it's their view of history is like, okay, there's the Bible. They don't really think about the origin of the New Testament, and more importantly, who decided the canonicity of the New Testament, which books would be in it. And then there's like this 1,500-year jump from the Bible canonicity of the New Testament to whoever their Protestant progenitor is, whether it be, if they're Reformed, it'd be Calvin, or if it's Luther, or if they're Presbyterian, then maybe it's going to be a combo of Calvin and then Knox, or whoever it is. So then they read their writings, and then there's like a jump for 150, 200 years, and then maybe they'll read Billy Graham or whoever is, if their pastor writes books, they'll be reading their books. So there's no concept of history, because again, well-meaning Protestants, this is what they know. They read the New Testament, they read the Bible. Then there's 1,500 years of nothing. Like they don't know. And then they read Luther or Calvin, whoever it is, and then they read whoever their pastor is. And so they don't really have a concept of history. I think you exacerbate this by, look, let's be real. Most Americans are woefully ignorant in history in general. So when you're asking about church history, ecclesiastical history, papal history, it's even worse. It's absolutely even worse that they're going to know anything about church history. So you can't really blame them. But this is why there's a lot of apostolates out there. And I would say, look, traditionalists give Vatican II such a bad rap, so to speak. But I'll tell you, one of the good things that came out of Vatican II, or really it was more Pope John Paul II, was kind of the lay evangelization, the role of the lay to evangelize, because historically it's always been the role of the clerics to do those things. But you've seen now the empowerment of the lay, and if you look at today, it's not to say that the clergy are not doing their job. Some would argue that they're not doing their job, but if you look at most of the outlets for Catholic content, it's lay. Sure, EWTN was founded by a sister, but many of their um, content creators are lay people. You think of Dr. Anders with Call to Communion. Sure, they have a lot of priests over there, but you look at Catholic Answers, that was founded by Carl Keating. He was a lay guy. You look at Ave Maria Radio and Ascension Press, but I mean, not even the big ones, but if you think of all the countless podcasts, all the countless blogs, all the countless private YouTube channels, mostly Catholic lay. So I think this is great. So you see this. So there's people out there to answer questions that Protestants have about the faith, or to clear up misconceptions that Protestants might have, or to educate and catechize Catholics that maybe didn't have a good catechesis when they were younger, which is about 95% of us, to be real. So I think it's great. And if you think about, like, if every Catholic were to just have a small podcast, small YouTube channel, small blog, and just or join St. Paul evangelism, the street preachers, or just be involved in their church. I mean, think how much better um, people would know their faith, and how much better witnesses that we would be as Catholic Christians out there. And I would extend it to all Christians. Imagine if Christians retook the public forum, because we've allowed the militant secular atheists to take that from us the last 50 years, where we actually allow them when they say, oh, you got to keep your religion private. And beforehand, we never did. The founding fathers didn't. The 19th century pioneers didn't. This is a very new occurrence of having to keep our faith quiet. Even I remember when the female Supreme Court justice, the Catholic one, Amy Cohen Barrett, I can't remember her name, in her approval process. I think it was still Feinstein. I think Feinstein was still alive, but Amy Coney Barrett was very honest. Like, my faith does impart my knowledge, and it's like scandalous to say that. But the atheists have no problem, and the cultural Marxists have no problem shoving their personal beliefs down our throats. But if all Christians, Protestants, Catholics, Orthodox, whoever, Mormons, if we were all more vocal, and not just proclaiming the faith, but practicing the faith, sticking to natural law, the Ten Commandments, living a righteous life, not only would this society improve, but we would get less. All Christians get this from the atheists. We're hypocrites, because anytime a Christian leader, whether it be Protestant or Catholic, fails to live up to that expectation, so you Christians are all hypocrites. You Christians are all hypocrites. And of course, you tell the atheist, well, it's the sin of Adam and Eve. It's the sin of the attachment to concupiscence. That we're all fallen creatures, and so you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. If you have one bad experience with a doctor in your life, you don't throw out medicine and never use medicine the rest of your life. But they'll like to throw things at the Christians. So they see this Christian youth pastor at the Southern Baptist Convention. He was sleeping with teenage girls. You see, it's therefore all of Christianity is bankrupt. They'll kind of use this bad logic. But if all Christians, Protestant or Catholics, would just live a more ethical, moral life and be more in conformity with natural law, just society would be so much better if we all did that. So I think it's kudos to any Christian, Protestant, Catholic, Mormon, whoever, who live their faith, follow the commandments, and live a virtuous life as much as we can. So I think that's great. I think that the lay evangelization that's been really been done in the last 20, 30 years has done a great overall, has done a great service for Catholicism. Now, I mean, I do sometimes talk about how I wish there was less on YouTube of kind of like the apocalyptic Catholic content creators, the ones who really inflame the Catholics, the ones who always talk about the apostasy in the church and what has Francis done now, and all these things that I don't think are overall positive and constructive at all for Catholics, because it just makes Catholics, first of all, they don't necessarily have the proof that what they're saying is true. It's kind of like it's kind of the same thing you see on news channels or sports channels, where it's just talking heads inflaming people because it's good for ratings. And so you look at private Catholic YouTube content creators, it's much more lucrative. You're going to get much more views if you're talking about Francis did this, or this change agent did this, and Archbishop Vigano responded by this, and Strickland did this, and overall, all you're doing is just causing more Catholics to be anxious and angry. What's the point of that? It's not constructive. What we need to be doing is focusing on our own interior life, because what's going on in Rome, we cannot affect change. And so the news that you're getting wherever you live in Wichita, Kansas, first of all, you can't say that the church is in apostasy when you live in small town Wichita, Kansas. There's no one who can make that claim. It's a sin of pride to make that claim. But even if the church was in apostasy right now, what are you going to do about it? There's nothing you can do about it. What can we do? We work on our own personal interior life. We work on our theological virtues, our cardinal virtues. We work on evangelizing the faith. We work on our own prayer life. We work on getting us right, working on ourselves, improving our lives, improving our prayer life, improving and doing more works of mercy, spiritual, corporal, going to Mass more. That's what you can control. You can't control what's going on in Rome. So on some level, it's pointless to even worry about what's going on, because ultimately, when we're like watching Fox or MSNBC, all it does is make you angry. So it's best just to purge all that secular nonsense out of your life. And I would tell you to purge the majority of Catholic content creators who this is what they do. They make you anxious and they cite anxiety and anger in you. I would tell you just stick to Bible in a year. I would stick to YouTube channels that help you improve your faith, learn your catechesis, improve your apologetics, make you a better person. Because listening to content creators who are telling you that this is going on in Rome, this is going on in the North American College over there, is not making you a better Christian. It's just not. All right, guys, that's all I have to say. Maybe next time someone will come in and call in. But until next time, take care.